Every one of you is aware of the spirited debate that has been raging for decades between evolutionists and creationists. This hot debate began in the mid-19th century, about 125 years ago, when Charles Darwin developed his theory of gradual evolution. Basically, what Charles Darwin said was that life began spontaneously from inanimate, inorganic matter. This beginning of life was supposedly in water, and a single simple cell first formed. Then this cell split and multiplied and evolved into new forms of life. With the passage of millions upon millions of years, fish came into existence in this water. And with additional millions upon millions of years, some of the fish started to walk on land and started to develop lungs instead of gills. Eventually, again, additional millions and millions of years were required for some of these land creatures to develop wings and the ability to fly. Another branch of these land animals continued to develop and evolve all the way to human beings. Of course, as scientists, we took this theory of Charles Darwin and we scrutinized it. We put it to the test, like any other theory. Darwin used terms like natural selection, mutations, survival of the fittest to explain his theory. Now, during the last 100 years of scientific revolution, we learned quite a few things. Many of the things that you and I learned as youngsters have been found to be wrong or at best trivialized. So we took this theory of evolution and we studied it carefully. We started to look for the evidence. We treated it like any other theory, trying to prove it and turn it into a law. So, in the process of studying the theory and collecting evidence, fossils and skeletal remnants and so on, and the other sciences combined to teach us that parts of the original theory of Darwin were unworkable or scientifically wrong, just downright wrong. And this led to the modification of Darwin's theory. As scientists, we had to modify the original theory of evolution as written by Charles Darwin in order to fit the new established facts. Let me give you a couple of examples. Gradual evolution proved to be wrong. Our fossil record does not support gradual evolution. You heard about the missing link. Every one of you knows about the missing link. And I'm here to tell you that there is not just a missing link, there are thousands of missing links. And to solve this problem, the scientists came up with a new theory called punctuated equilibrium. Stephen Gould of Harvard and Miles Eldridge came up with this idea, punctuated equilibria, to solve the problem of the missing links. What they said was that evolution happened in giant leaps, not gradually. So this was the first major modification of the original theory of evolution. Another idea, for example, that we had to abandon was Lamarck's concept of inherited, let me give you the correct expression here, the transmission of acquired characteristics. This concept of Lamarck had to be abandoned because it proved unworkable. And to give you an example of from everyday life, Lamarck, for example, said that the giraffe has a long neck because those animals had to reach for high leaves and they lived in an area where they needed the long neck. Well, this was proven unworkable and scientifically untenable, and it was eventually abandoned. So we kept adjusting and modifying the theory of evolution. What I wish to share with you today is a scientific examination of both evolution and creation. I will present to you physical evidence, irrefutable, incontrovertible evidence that will help you decide exactly what took place, evolution and or creation. The title of this program is Evolution or Creation, the Final Argument. And hopefully, by the end of this program, you will see enough evidence to help you make a final decision about evolution and creation. We will find out exactly what components of Darwin's theory are correct and which components are wrong. And I must point out at this time that Darwin was indeed a genius when he suggested natural selection, survival of the fittest, and mutations to explain his theory. Let me give you a good example. The navel orange, this beautiful fruit, is a new creature. That's right. Your great-grandfather never saw or tasted a navel orange. And this happened through mutation. All of a sudden, this tree came out with this beautiful fruit, seedless and delicious. And of course, now it is spread all over the world. We take it for granted. But this is a good example of evolution. However, I must point out that the navel orange evolved from oranges. In other words, we did not see an apple evolve from oranges or a fig. An orange, it is still, the navel orange is still an orange. And this is an important point. The evolution-creation issue is before the Supreme Court this year, in 1987. So this program is quite timely, because right now we have a powerful, scientific, and objective tool that can tell us exactly which events in the world are probable and which events are not probable. This powerful, objective, and scientific tool is mathematics. Mathematics is the most scientific of all sciences. It is a pure science. And through mathematics, we can tell if a bridge or a building is going to collapse or not under any given circumstances. So we can use this powerful tool to examine both evolution and creation. This is exactly what we're going to do together. And hopefully, by the end of this program, you and I will reach a final decision. So the name, the final argument, is quite appropriate. Let me first simplify the mathematical laws, the laws of probability, that we will be using today to examine both evolution and creation. Let us say we have 5 cubes. Each cube is labeled with only one number, either 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. If we mix these 5 cubes in a mixer and have them fall down in some kind of a device so they'll be lined up in one line, or toss them up in the air and have them fall in such a way so they'll be lined up, what are the possible combinations of these 5 cubes? How many permutations are you going to have? Well, the laws of mathematics are very simple. They tell you that you will get 120 combinations, and you obtain this by multiplying 1 by 2 by 3 by 4 by 5. The product is 120. So you will get 120 combinations or permutations. In other words, every combination, let us say, if they fall down, lined up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this particular combination, this combination has a chance out of 120 chances. Let me show you on the board. Here we are with 5 cubes, each one labeled with only one number. You toss them up in the air and have them fall down so they'll be lined up in this particular combination. What are the possible combinations? How many? Here we see the formula. The number of possible combinations or permutations is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5, or 120 combinations. The probability for any specific combination is obtained by dividing 1 over 120, because each combination has a chance out of 120 chances. And 1 over 120 equals 0.0086. This probability diminishes fast as we increase the number of cubes. For example, if we increase the number of cubes by 1, so you have 6 cubes instead of 5, the number of possible combination jumps from 120 to 720. 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6. And the probability for any specific combination goes down from 1 out of 120 to 1 out of 720, or 0.0014. So you can see how fast it diminishes. Okay, well, when will the probability diminish all the way to 0? Well, mathematicians who are exceedingly precise, conservative, and careful scientists decided that if you have 84 cubes, then the probability is 0 for getting any specific combinations. What does this mean? Let me go to the board and show you this. I have the number here for 84 cubes. The probability, look at this, is 0.00000000 all the way 50 zeros, and then 208. So you can see here that the probability for all practical purposes is 0. And this, by the way, is extending it the full benefit of the doubt. What does this mean in practical terms? This means that you can take these 84 cubes, toss them up in the air, and have them fall in such a way so they line up. And if you want the specific combination of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to 84, if you want this specific combination, you can toss up these cubes and have them fall down lined up forever, and you will never see this combination. This is what probability 0 means. You can appreciate that. Now, many of you are familiar with the lottery. You know what your chances are of winning the lottery. And here, in the lottery, we're talking about 5 or 6 numbers. So you can really appreciate the improbability of having 84 cubes line up in a specific combination.
To make a long story short, the genetic material of the human being, the gene that decides what kind of creature we have, this genetic material contains, listen to this, 30 billion nucleotides arranged in specific sequences and specific quantities. Now, what are the probabilities of arranging these billions of nucleotides in a specific sequence? Of course, you know the answer from mathematical laws. The probability is 0 many times over. We are talking here about not 84 numbers, or 8400 numbers, or 84,000, or 84 million numbers. We're talking about 30 billion nucleotides. As scientists, we have been talking about similarities between the human being and the ape as far as genetic material is concerned. And you know something, if we have 90% similarity, we are still talking about 300 million nucleotides that must be arranged in a specific sequence and specific quantities to change the ape into a human being. Even if we have 99% similarity, we are still talking about 30 million nucleotides that must be haphazardly arranged in specific sequence in order to change the ape into a human being. And you know that the probability for this is zero. We have now these mathematical laws that can tell us exactly which event is probable and which event is not probable. And we know that the probability that 30 million nucleotides, in case of 99% similarity between the human and the ape, we know that this probability is zero. We're not talking about 84 numbers. We're talking about 30 million nucleotides. Another thing, at the other end of the evolutionary spectrum, we're talking about the so-called simple cell. You remember when I stated Charles Darwin's theory, Darwin said that first a simple single cell was formed. Well, the cell that Darwin is talking about is not simple at all. It's a very complex chemical factory. In fact, it is the most complex chemical factory we know of. It has hundreds of actions and reactions going on in the cell. And it has the DNA material that is very complex. And just to quote something that will make you smile at least, about 50 years ago, Wells, Huxley, and Wells wrote in their text, The Science of Life, I'm quoting now, "Nothing can be seen inside the nucleus of the cell but a clear fluid." End of quote. Now, those great scientists knew nothing about DNA. In the last 50 years, there was so much advancement in science that we realize now how many actions and reactions are going on within the nucleus. We know about the DNA, the helical structure, and we know the arrangement and the specificity of sequences of nucleotides, and we know now that haphazard creation of a simple cell, as Darwin called it, is not, the probability is zero. According to Darwin, the evolution of organs paralleled the evolution of the organisms. For example, the eye, this very complex organ, started out, according to Darwin, as a light-sensitive spot on the surface. After millions upon millions of years, this light-sensitive spot became a depression. Additional millions upon millions of years passed, and the depression became a pit, and then millions more years caused a lens to develop in that depression. Well, according to this scenario, creatures existed for millions upon millions of years in total blindness, awaiting the evolution of the 20/20 vision, the evolution of the eye. And this, of course, to you and to me, logically does not make sense. And now we see by mathematical laws that the probability is zero, that this happened haphazardly. Do you know how many things are in the eye? The lens, the cornea, the retina, I can give you a list, 2 pages of components of the eye. Each one of them cannot be haphazardly formed. We have now these laws of mathematics telling us that the probability is zero. Let me give you some examples. The dragonfly has 30,000 lenses in each eye, 30,000 of them. Now, for millions of years, the dragonfly existed with 30,000 lenses in each eye. What kind of intelligence told the dragonfly to stop evolving at 30,000? Imagine the little area, the small eye of the dragonfly, divided into 30,000 cones, and each cone is fitted with a perfectly shaped lens. Imagine that. Now, why did the dragonfly stop at 30,000? Why not a couple hundred more or a couple thousand more? Who told the dragonfly that this is enough evolution for your eye? How about the housefly? 4,000 lenses in each eye. The housefly has 4,000 lenses in each eye. Now, what kind of intelligence told the housefly to stop evolving the eye at 4,000 lenses? For millions of years, the fly had 4,000 lenses in each eye. Now, who told it to stop evolving? Why not go on to 5,000 lenses? The honeybee has 6,300 lenses in each eye. And again, we face the same question. And if you pursue that question, it will prove the existence of a super intelligent being that told these organisms to stop evolving their eyes at a certain number of lenses. So this is the irony of it. So, while evolution is proven to be correct by scientific research, the initiation of life or the origin of species is proven to be not probable. The probability is zero. And therefore, it had to be created by a super intelligent creator. And we will discuss this matter and see the mathematical evidence supporting it before the end of this program. Let us look at some established facts that you and I have witnessed in the last few years. The first fact is that despite our tremendous scientific advances, these great achievements, not a single scientist, not a single researcher, not a single laboratory has succeeded in initiating life from inorganic, inanimate matter. They utterly failed in duplicating Charles Darwin's basic concept that life evolved from inanimate inorganic matter. What the scientists, what we succeeded in doing was to synthesize amino acids and proteins from oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and so on. This is the extent of our success in the lab. We could not produce life. Now, of course, it is natural that we can make amino acids or proteins from oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and so on. After all, these are the ingredients that make up amino acids and proteins. It's no big deal that you create the circumstances for the ingredients to link up together and make up these chemicals. But these are dead chemicals, dead molecules of amino acids and proteins. And some people would say, these are the building blocks of life. Well, that is right. These are the building blocks. But this is the extent of it. Just that, building blocks. Now, if you take a bunch of building blocks, put them at the corner, and leave them there for thousands of years, will they assemble themselves into a building? With the deliberate design? Of course not. So, as scientists, we succeeded in creating the building blocks, but we could not create the building. This is a very important fact. The debate between evolutionists and creationists was so hot and so emotional that some of my fellow scientists gave up their scientific objectivity, and I find myself forced to criticize fellow scientists for behaving like unscientific creationists. Let me give you a good example. It has to do with a booklet published by the National Academy of Sciences back in 1983. In that booklet, they published a picture, one of their favorite pictures, the skulls of a number of hominids. And they concluded from that picture that the skull of the more advanced hominid evolved from the more primitive skull. That the advanced skull evolved from the primitive skull. Well, this is a perfectly valid and scientific conclusion. There's no problem with that. But the problem is that the Academy ignored an equally valid conclusion that these skulls, the animals that possessed these, or the creatures that possessed these skulls, simply existed independently, independent of each other, without any relationship whatsoever. Now, scientific objectivity dictates that we present both views, that the skulls evolved from each other, and or the skulls existed independently of each other. This kind of abandoning scientific objectivity resulted from the high emotionalism and fanaticism on both sides of the evolution-creation issue. But scientists should never abandon their objectivity. We'll be in deep trouble if we abandon our objectivity. No, we cannot say evolution is a fact and it is up to the rest of the world to prove otherwise. This is putting the cart before the horse. When we say that this evolution business is a theory, the burden of proof is on us to provide the evidence that evolution is a fact. It is our duty to establish evolution as a truth, not the other way around. To summarize, we all appreciate the power of mathematics as a pure science, the most scientific of all sciences, and we are all familiar with the simple formula of Einstein, E equals mc squared, and we are familiar with the tremendous consequences of such a simple formula. Mathematics is an objective and powerful tool that can tell us exactly what events in the world are probable and what events are not probable. We have been talking about DNA, the genes, 30 billion nucleotides in the human gene that interact with other life processes. We are not talking about a toy. You know, when you go to the toy store and buy a bunny rabbit, for example, it has ears and realistic eyes, but these eyes don't see. and this toy rabbit doesn't have any cells or DNA or nucleotides that are arranged or any life actions and reactions. We are assuming here that we are just talking about the simple arrangement of nucleotides in specific sequences and specific quantities. We are talking about just physical arrangement. The probability is this infinitesimally small probability is multiplied by other infinitesimally small probabilities when you interact the nucleotides, the DNA, with other life processes in the cell and throughout the organism. Now we can use the same powerful tool to prove the alternative, namely creation. Now how in the world can anybody prove creation? Nobody could imagine anything that can prove creation. But you know something? About 100 years ago, we could not envision TV or the telephone or communication satellites. But here we are. If you can see your great-grandfather today and describe the television to him, he would disagree with you. He would think you went crazy. So, similarly, we could not imagine anything that will prove or disprove creation. But how about a coded message from outer space? Did you ever think about that? A coded message from outer space telling you, I am the creator and this is how I did it. A message that will give you all the details. Many of you are familiar with Carl Sagan's latest novel called Contact. In Contact, he presented a fictitious story about a coded message from outer space from some intelligent life out there, and the message was decoded by computers and so on. And you know something? This is not fictitious at all. I am here to tell you that we actually received a coded message, mathematically coded message, from the super intelligent creator, telling us exactly what happened, how the universe and the 6 million living organisms, 6 million species of living organisms in this universe, how they all came to be. Now that we possess this irrefutable mathematical proof that came from outer space, from the super intelligent creator, we can look back and at least smile at statements of even some of the leading creationists. Let me quote for you one of those leading creationists, Dwayne Gish. He said, "It is impossible to conceive an experiment that could disprove the possibility of creation. Creation thus does not fulfill the criteria of a scientific theory." End of quotation. So even the creationists gave up, thinking that there could never be anything to prove or disprove creation. But here we are, just like any other discovery, we find this mathematically coded message from the super intelligent creator. The first hint of the mathematical code was reported about 900 years ago by a Jewish rabbi, Rabbi Judah the Pious. And by the way, I'm talking here about unaltered, original, untranslated scripture. This is very important, very crucial, because there have been many distortions and changes, alterations, losses, additions to the scriptures. And we have to be extremely careful to know that we are dealing with original, unaltered, untranslated scriptures, literally the very same words that the Creator wrote down or sent to us. So, what Rabbi Judah found, let me quote for you, it is easier this way. The people, now this quotation is from a book called Studies in Jewish Mysticism. It was edited by Joseph Dan and Frank Talmadge. And here's what they said. The people, Jews, in France, made it a custom to add in the morning prayer the words, Ashrei Temenei Torek. Blessed are those who walk the righteous way. And our rabbi, the pious, of blessed memory, wrote that they were completely and utterly wrong. It is all gross falsehood, because there are only 19 times, now pay attention to these numbers, there are only 19 times that the holy name is mentioned in that portion of the morning prayer. And similarly, you find the word Elohim 19 times in the pericope of Va'el Shemot. Similarly, you find that Israel is called sons 19 times, and there are many other examples. All these sets of 19 are intricately intertwined, and they contain many secrets and esoteric meanings. So this was the first hint of a mathematical composition in the message that came to us from the Creator, or some kind of a code. Now, you realize now that it is important to find original scripture, unchanged. And just like the evolutionists looking for fossils and skeletal remains, scientists have been looking the world over for original scriptures. You heard about the Red Sea Scrolls and all the finds in lots of, in the Middle East, in many places. All these are attempts. Some of them are failures and some of them are successes. So I set out to find an original scripture. And here is the result. In this whole world, there's only one scripture that was never altered, not a single letter was changed in that scripture. And that scripture is the Quran. So what I did was, I got the Quran, an original copy, with the original Arabic, and I put it in the computer, and I decoded an intricate mathematical code that is clearly beyond human ability. So now we have physical proof using the ultimate in scientific evidence, mathematics, telling us that everything that happened, that there is a super intelligent creator, and in that message we see how we came into being, why we are here, where we are going, and many, many other answers to lots of our most urgent questions. Before I put the Quran in the computer, I noticed a unique phenomenon that you will never find in any other literary work. I noticed, for example, that chapter 2 of the Quran has, in the first verse, there are only 3 letters in the first verse. That's it. A-L-M. That is verse 1 of chapter 2. And these letters remained mysterious for 1400 years. Scholars and scientists of all kinds have been looking at these initials, A-L-M, and the other initials in Quran, trying to figure out what they mean, and they could not do it. The computer did it recently. And to give you an idea, if you count the letters A, L, and M in chapter 2 of Quran, you will find that the total is 9,899. And this number, 9,899, is a multiple of 19. Remember the work of Judah, Rabbi Judah the Pious? The number 19 turns out to be the common denominator in the older scripture and in the newer scripture. 19 is the common denominator in the Bible, the original, unaltered Bible, and also in the latest edition of the scripture, the Quran. And this is very important. Now there are 29 chapters in Quran covering half the Quran. The Quran has 114 chapters. Some of them are longer and some are shorter, but the 29 initial chapters constitute half the Quran. And this mathematical system goes from the very simple to the very complex. So it is suitable for people of all levels of education. For example, chapter 50 is entitled Q. That's it. Just one letter, Q. And it is initialed with the letter Q. The computer said that this chapter contains 57 Qs. When you count them, you can count them if you know the Arabic letters, and you'll find that the total is 57. 19 times 3. There is one other chapter in Quran that is initialed with the letter Q, and that is chapter 42, which happens to be more than twice as long as chapter 50 entitled Q. And when you count the letter Q in chapter 42, you'll find exactly the same number, 57. So the only two Q initialed chapters have the same number of Qs, 57 and 57. Chapter 68 is initialed with the letter N, as in Nancy, N. And you count the letters N in this chapter, and you come up with 133, 19 times 7. And this goes on, and it gets more and more complex until you realize that this is not human fabrication, that this is way beyond human ability. For example, we have 7 chapters in Quran that we see initialed with the letters HM. 7 of them, about 1/10. They constitute about 1/10 of the whole book. And when you count the letters H, Ha, and M, Mim, in these 7 chapters, you come up with a total 2,147. And this is a multiple of 19. The common denominator throughout the scriptures. The coded message from the Creator to us. 2,147. Now, if only one letter H or one letter M was lost or added in the last 1,400 years, you would end up with 2,148, for example, and this is not a multiple of 19. The whole system collapses. Or 2,146, because mathematics is a pure science. It is the most sensitive scale, and if you lose one number, you don't have a multiple of 19. By the time the computer was done with the mathematical analysis of Quran, a vast mathematical code emerged, and you could see that every letter, every word in Quran is precisely calculated beyond human ability, and you will be absolutely convinced that this is a message from a super intelligent creator telling us exactly what happened. Let me give you another good example, because some people may think that only the initial chapters are mathematically composed. This simple example is that the opening statement in Quran consists of 4 words, and the number of letters in this statement is 19. It's a very important statement. It says, "In the name of God, the gracious, the merciful," and it is considered the most important statement in Quran. It consists of 19 letters, and every word is found in the whole book in multiples of 19. For example, the first word, ism, or name, is mentioned exactly 19 times throughout the whole book. The second word is God, Allah, and it is found 2,698 times. This is 19 times 142. The third word, the gracious, in Arabic, Ar-Rahman, is mentioned in the whole book 57 times, 19 times 3. And the last word, Ar-Rahim, or the merciful, is mentioned 114 times, or 19 times 6. Now, right there, you can appreciate that this cannot happen in a human fabricated book, in a human made book. Because you can go to the library, if you if you go to the library and examine 1 million human-made books, how many books will you find where the opening statement consists of an X number of letters, and every word in the opening statement is repeated in the whole book in multiples of X? How many? Again, the laws of probability say 0. You will not find a book where all the words of the opening statement comply with this criterion. So there you have it, this very simple phenomenon, by the way, was published in Scientific American in the September 1981 issue, and the comment on it was that this is an ingenious study of the Quran. I was really flattered. What does this have to do with the evolution creation issue? Well, we have here a vitally important document from the super intelligent creator telling us in words and letters that are mathematically composed beyond human intelligence, telling us exactly what happened. And in this document, we see that life began in water, just like Darwin said. So this portion of Darwin's theory is confirmed. We also see evolution and changes in creation in Quran chapter 35 verse 1 and in chapter 16 verse 8. We see that evolution is a continuing process. So according to this vitally important document, evolution is a divinely guided process. Evolution is a creation of the super intelligent creator, and it is something that is happening now on continuous basis. We learn that every one of us was individually created, and the evolution that is taking place is individually controlled and guided by the super intelligent creator. One of the most exciting things about this document is that the dichotomy, the great rift between science and religion, is eliminated. We now see this document from the super intelligent creator telling us that evolution is the creator's work and that it is going on continuously, and therefore there is no need for this dichotomy between science and religion. So what we see here is mathematical, irrefutable evidence that creation and evolution both are correct and they complement each other. Of course, we have to examine the existing theories of evolution and creation and correct them in view of the new statements that came to us from the super intelligent creator.
While on the subject of confirming or rejecting existing scriptures, I must point out that this mathematically composed document from the super intelligent creator, the Quran, sets the record straight as far as many existing creationist ideas are concerned. For example, we learn that the earth is billions of years old, not 5,000 or 10,000 years old. And we learn that the earth is egg-shaped, as I mentioned before, not flat. And we learn that Noah's Ark, for example, did not look like what we see in the pictures of Bible stories and so on. Noah's Ark was simply a raft made of logs tied together with primitive ropes. And Noah did not carry all the animals of the earth on his ark either, or this raft. He carried his domesticated animals to save himself, his family, and his animals from the flood. And the flood did not cover the whole world, as we hear, as youngsters. The flood was a local flood. All this is proven by mathematically composed statements from the Creator himself. It is very important to realize that the prevalent creationism has nothing to do with the original untranslated Bible. That's right. The prevalent creationism is a product of medieval storytellers and ignorant interpretations and mistranslations of the original Bible. For example, the Bible says clearly that one of our days is the same as 1,000 years of your Lord. So, or the day is equal to 50,000 years if you look at the Quran in chapter 70 verse 4. So we are told clearly that the day of our earth is not equal to any other day. When you go to the moon, the day equals 14 earthly days. If you go to Mercury, for example, the day over there is 88 of our days. So the minute you leave this tiny planet Earth, the day is no longer 24 hours. So the truth is, the Bible does not say that the Earth is 6,000 or 10,000 years old. The Bible does not say that Noah's flood covered the whole world. And the original Bible did not say that Noah carried all his animals on the ark, and the ark did not look like an aircraft carrier either. These misrepresentations of the Bible actually give Christianity and religion in general a bad name. Those people who are pushing the prevalent false creationism are doing a terrible disservice to Christianity and to the Bible, because these misrepresentations are not the truth. Scientific findings and now mathematics support the truth in the Bible, and we must remember that the creationism that is prevalent today is false. The true creationism agrees 100% with science. It is the prevalence of these ideas that are completely rejected by science and scientific findings and established facts. These ideas caused Darwin's disillusionment with religion. And let me quote for you what Darwin said as a result of these prevalent creationist ideas. I'm quoting now. I gradually came to disbelieve in Christianity as a divine revelation. This disbelief crept over me at a very slow rate, but at last was complete. And we cannot blame Darwin for seeing that the earth is billions of years old, as established by science, while the creationist ideas say that the earth is 6,000 years old. You cannot blame the man for not believing that Noah carried all the animals, the lions, the giraffes, the polar bears, and the giant worms of Australia on his ark. And you cannot blame Darwin for not believing that the flood of Noah covered the whole world. So all these things are now set straight. We learn from this document that the Quran complements the older scriptures and confirms the majority of the truth in those scriptures and consummates the whole message from the Creator to us. To conclude, we now possess physical, incontrovertible evidence that every one of the 6 million species of living organisms came into being through a creation process. Then evolution took place and is going on continuously. as a divinely guided and controlled process. Thank you very much.
We have invited into our studio Professor Jeff Clark. He is with Arizona State University. He is an anthropologist, and he maintains that creationism isn't a science and therefore doesn't belong in scientific classes. On the other hand, we have Dr. Rashad Khalifa. He is a biochemist, and of course he takes the opposite stand. And again, we're going to throw our phones open for your opinions about it. It's a hot issue, and it's going to be one that is going to be viewed with a great deal of interest by the people in the United States and the various states, and we're going to find out how this thing is going to evolve.
Well, Bob, I have to make a correction here in that I will approach the matter from a scientific point of view. I agree with most of the things that Jeff just mentioned, in that science is our means to ascertain what the truth is. And we have a very powerful tool, objective and scientific tool, to ascertain what events in the world are probable and what events are not probable. And this powerful tool is mathematics. Mathematics is the most powerful, the most scientific of all sciences, and it represents the ultimate in scientific proof. And I realize that nobody can ever imagine a proof that will prove either evolution or creation, but there's something new and very exciting, and I'm here to present it to you.
Well, we have to be...
So, in essence, we are talking about a mathematically coded message from outer space. If you read Carl Sagan's Contact, he's talking about a novel, a fictitious message from outer space. Now, this is not fiction anymore. And this is what I come here with.
You're going to have to put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I dare say. But so far as the particular aspect of the Old Testament that's of issue here, i.e. the book of Genesis, it's an origin myth like any other origin myth. It's neither greater nor lesser than the Navajo origin myth.
You keep going back to the book of Genesis exists.
The reason I say that is I believe that underlies scientific creationism as espoused by Henry Morris. Now, it's obvious Dr. Khalifa does not agree with Dr. Morris.
That's right, and he's not here right now. I'm debating with you.
That's quite true. But who has written the texts on scientific creationism? Henry Morris. And who is the founder of the Institute for Creation Research? Henry Morris.
How long ago was that?
Well, it goes back about 20 years.
We were talking about now, Jeff. As soon as this program is over, I will show you irrefutable mathematical evidence that we have a document from outer space from the Creator telling us exactly how things
How are you going to prove that in the Supreme Court, for heaven's sake?
Absolutely. I'll prove it in any court.
All right, we have to take some callers. This is really getting interesting. Messages from outer space.
Absolutely.
To absolutely prove the creationism is a fact.
Yes, sir.
All right. Is it possible that there is some sort of gigantic protoplasm somewhere out in the cosmos with all the ingredients and all of this energy that can in fact create things? I'm not talking about an old man enrobed with a beard and pearly gates and things like that. I'm talking about, is there a possibility, with our limited knowledge, to envision some sort of humongous thing that thinks, that can create things?
Well, you can envision anything that you want, and obviously not in a strict, rigorous sense. But
you're not saying this about God, but
gods are the servants of the societies and the cultures that create them. They have no existence apart from the societies that give
even if it is proven to you.
Well, I'd like to see somebody prove it to me.
I'm glad you like to see it, because I can show it to you. But there is no escape now that there is a super intelligence out there, either through the theory of evolution, ironically, or the theory of creation.